Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box is one of those games that was teased at the end of the game before it, and I can admire the passion for a story to desire expanding its universe, or refining plot points in a sequel if time crunch was preventing the creator's vision from being articulated in one package. But in a world where profit matters most, these types of teasers lose their meaning. Like, are you really writing a sequel, or are you just trying to secure the bag? And with Diabolical Box, I'm not sure which it is. Professor Layton and the Curious Village didn't leave many loose ends indicative of a greater narrative, unless you want to consider Luke's journey into becoming a gentleman, or Flora's life outside Saint Mystier to be that thread. Maybe the story was an afterthought, and the developers had 100 more brain teasers they wanted to share. Well, that's what it seems like, since this trio's next adventure will feel mostly isolated from their premiere. Diabolical Box was actually the Professor Layton game I started with. My sister asked for it for Christmas when it released, which was kind of unusual because she rarely asked for video games as gifts despite growing up with them and playing them with me. But I think it paid off since the Professor Layton games quickly became some of our most anticipated releases every year. This is going to be my first time replaying Diabolical Box, so it's going to be fun to see how this game sparked interest in the franchise for both of us. Like I said, Diabolical Box is a mostly isolated sequel from Curious Village, so you don't necessarily need to play that game to enjoy this one. There's a few moments that reference events in Curious Village, but honestly, it might be a better option to skip straight to this game, since some scenes like to use dramatic irony by revealing a returning character to the player long before Layton and Luke meet them, and it extinguishes a lot of suspense. But yeah, I'm just gonna get right into the story, which once again starts with Professor Layton and Luke receiving a letter, this time from Layton's colleague, Dr. Andrew Schrader. He's in possession of the Elysian Box, a relic that has become infamous for killing anyone who opens it. And as you'd expect, the doctor commits self-deletion after opening the box. Fuck, where can I get one of those? There's a lot I want to say about this opening, since it's really cluttered, like Layton being a sociopath. I don't know, man, his first impression here is jarring. You just discovered your mentor's dead body and y'all want to tamper with the crime scene before calling the police? Even when speculating Schrader's death, Layton's already got 44 carcass puzzles cooking in the oven. And Luke's a maniac too. The kid is prying the skin off a police officer's face? Do not let either of these two near your loved ones. Besides the whole dead body thing and the mystery of the box, this game follows in Curious Village's footsteps by including as many arbitrary clues in its opening as it can for the sake of overwhelming players, but this time the breadcrumbs are framed in a way that feels like it was taken straight from Ace Attorney. A man dies in his office on the 8th floor of a building, locked from the inside, yet the supposed murder weapon, the Elysian Box, is nowhere to be found. A curtain in the room is torn off and attached to a balcony on a nearby window, and a ripped up photograph lies in the victim's cold grip. Yeah, I want to know what the hell happened in here. But Layton isn't too concerned. What caught his attention is a used train ticket. Please just let my soul pass on peacefully, you wanker. The ticket has no destination, but this lunatic has decided to put everything in his life on hold for a Hail Mary first guess gamble that maybe if he goes on the train, he will not only find the Elysian Box, but will also be able to uncover its secrets. This is the smartest man in the universe. So we're on a train now, and this is a setting I like, not just because locomotives are neat, but because trains are the perfect vessel for filler content. One of my gripes about Curious Village was how quickly it stopped the story's momentum to include a lot of pointless fetch quests, but at the same time, the game needs a reason for us to be solving puzzles. So in these instances, the journey is more important than the destination. Instead of chasing after a cat, Layton and Luke are looking for a child, and along the way they run into Chelmy, the cop from before. Chelmy highlights a subtle change within the game's writing, and it's that every supporting character is underutilized. Chelmy's meant to be a foil to the professor, level-headed but handicapped by his ego. The opposite of a gentleman. He's just an inspector from the Scotland Yard, and because of that, he's a boring character. For real, they gave him a constable sidekick like Luke. This rivalry should be legendary. I blame Layton, fucking Mary Sue. The most relevant character to the entire story is also really forgettable. Goomba. This man owns the train and is related to most of the supporting cast. He's also searching for the Elysian Box, yet there really isn't a moment where I consider him an obstacle. We meet Chelmy and Goomba so early into the story. These are perfect characters to advance the plot with, since their interests are so closely aligned with Layton's that information could easily reach him. And due to everyone's diverging motives, some clues may be withheld, giving Layton an opportunity to flex his intellect. No, instead, we're looking for Tom, and what a twist, he's a dog, and Flora took him. Mother 3, anyone? What are they doing with Flora? Does she live with Layton and Luke? Why is she here on her own? For being a sequel, I would have hoped to learn anything about Flora adapted to society. But just you wait, the writers are gonna fumble Flora harder than your favorite sport team that one time. But yeah, the trio's gonna stop at Dropstone, a little pacebreaker so we aren't constantly looking at the same screens. And here the trio meets the mayor, Mr. Anderson, and discover that his daughter, Katia, is planning on leaving town behind his back. As we'll later find out, Katia is also in pursuit of the Elysian Box. A lot of people looking to die in this story. The genealogy was a bit difficult to follow with how often characters appear and disappear, but Mr. Anderson is technically, but not really, Goomba's nephew-in-law. What I'm getting at is that Goomba and Katia are related by blood, and with these two having a common goal, their relationship could have had some meat to it. Just thinking about all these ways the story could have been improved reminds me of the 39 Clues, a book series I know nothing about because I faked reading them in middle school, but from the 20 pages I did scrub through, it's about a divided family looking for MacGuffins, aka how Diabolical Box should have framed itself. Why did I include this if I've never even read them? You know, my school's librarian liked me so much, when she saw me renting these books, she ordered more copies. I'm a fucking demon. Just a thought, don't analyze Professor Layton plots because it's a sinkhole of disappointment. Like what happens to Flora. Since she is reunited with Layton and Luke, she becomes irrelevant. It's like the writers didn't know what to do with her. And let me remind you that this game was teased at the end of Curious Village. So at one point in Dropstone, a silhouette of Don Paolo, the antagonist from the last game, is shown to the player. What does he do? He kidnaps Flora, but immediately returns her. If you've never played Curious Village, there's some mystery to what just happened. At the time, I probably assumed he put a tracking device on her. But if you've played Curious Village, it's so obvious. Don Paolo is a master of disguise, so clearly he is wearing a Flora costume and switched spots with her. And then Flora probably dies. The real mystery is how Layton doesn't notice. That's a man's voice. I saw a grapefruit pop out of his chest at least 3 times. Don is like 2 feet taller than Flora and triple her weight. Layton was probably like, "Hey, blimey mate, fuck that dodgy lass. Can't even have a proper chinwag with her. Always faffing around. Won't even push the bloody trolley at the market. Absolute rubbish. Thinking about's got me all miffed now, Luke. Bollocks!" The next part is pretty cool. While talking to people around Dropstone, rumors of a train stop off the grid come up, which prompts the trio to sneak into the train's deluxe car to investigate. While inside, they run into the conductor, a man of rock and roll, Sammy Thunder! Sammy's been present as much as Goomba has, but only exists to do Goomba's grunt work while he searches for the Elysian Box. Their relationship is complex since the two are uncle and nephew, and it's obvious Sammy hates being worked like a dog. It's another wasted opportunity. With everyone looking for the box, Sammy standing up for himself and quitting could have been Goomba's downfall. But for the entire game, they're just background noise. But let's stick to the present. The train is about to pass a tunnel, but before this happens, Sammy places flowers around the train that contain some sort of knockout aroma that causes everyone to fall asleep. And while they're in the tunnel, the deluxe car switches onto a different train, which means y'all just lost your belongings. I hate the story. For having a protagonist who's so focused on logic and reasoning, the happenings around him are just ludicrous. It probably appealed to me as a kid, since suspending my disbelief was much easier. I was also playing it much slower back then, always getting stuck on the puzzles. I think it took me a few months to see the ending, so the plot barely crossed my mind. But the train is now in transit for Folsense, and this opens up a really unique puzzle, since it can be played like an ARG. Find out what number is missing. This puzzle mentions that the instruction manual contains the same ticket inside, and sure enough, there's a replica on the center page where you can easily remove it. I have no intentions of doing that, since this belongs to my sister. Not that she would care, but this was such a cool inclusion, and with games rarely coming bundled with manuals anymore, a concept like this shows how they can still be valuable.
Oh my. Just what is going on here?
I don't no, but it's strange.
The train has finally reached Folsense, a city much like Saint Mystere from Curious Village. It's similar in size and packed with residents to interrogate. But before running around and searching for clues, the trio checks into a hotel. Now I know it's the closest one to the train station, but you gotta be out of your damn mind if you think I'm gonna walk through the L door, Professor. Flora stays behind, and the mad dash for the Elysian box begins. Goomba and Sammy go to a museum so they can bicker about who sucks the most, Katia heads to the back alleys to find a manager, and Chelmy investigates by interviewing the locals. One part that got a chuckle out of me is that one of the paths in town is blocked off by Chelmy's assistant, Barton, because something behind him is too graphic for a child like Luke to see. And then you take the long way around and discover there's a cabaret right there, and this old bat at the door keeps trying to entice the boys to come inside. Like, whoa, 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 if Herschel Jr. wants any action, Cornhub is right there. At some point, Chelmy gets bit by a dog, and the photo scraps that were at Dr. Schrader's crime scene get scrambled around town. Gathering them all will reveal the only picture of what the Elysian box looks like, which has satanic imagery. My favorite. The same symbol appears on this My Password journal Layton finds in the streets that is full of locks. If I open the first page and everything is in Relayan, I'm gonna set it down and walk away. That was the omen. I wasn't meant to be there. Something fuck shit's about to go down. As it turns out, the book is a vampire diary. Literally, everyone in town is terrified by their neighbor living in Hertzen Castle, Mr. Spooky Vampire Man. Now this is a great coincidence because while I haven't read the 39 Clues, one of the 2 fiction novels I have read in the past decade is Dracula. I was looking out for references, but besides garlic and mirrors being used as repellent, nothing stood out. I mean, maybe I consider the castle and Daily Chariot to be pulled from the book, although the chariot is a plot device that doesn't even need to exist, and the castle fits with the big finale building trend these games follow. Something Layton and Luke learned during their excursion is that a curse befell Folsense 50 years ago after a vein of gold ore was discovered in the city's mines. For some unknown reason, it caused many people to move away and create a new civilization in Dropstone. Comparing to Curious Village, this is around the point where the big twist can be figured out, since most of the clues are present. But Diabolical Box's biggest mysteries are still tough to resolve. We got vampires and the weird cutscene where the city lights up when everyone leaves the train station, Don Paolo's plot is still unknown, and we can't even find the Elysian box. Well, it might all be resolved now because Chelmy believes he knows how Dr. Schrader really died.
And his name is
Sussy Thunder.
Oh, come on, officer, man. My only crime is rockin', and rockin' ain't a crime. Yow! Let me go.
Wholesome. And then Layton, the psychopath, chimes in.
Isn't it obvious? If the criminal does indeed reside in our midst, he or she would be the only one of us to see the Elysian box in person, which means the culprit must be you there.
Here, it's revealed that Don Paolo is Flora, and the reason he got caught is because he mentioned a detail about the Elysian box that someone would only know if they saw it, and since Layton found the torn photograph, he can verify that detail. Don drops the box, running away from the scene, which totally explains why Flora had a dump truck all of a sudden. And after some arguing over who should keep the box, Katia convinces the professor to deliver it to the vampire. Layton's like, no, I'd rather die, thank you, so he unclasps the box's lid to witness the face of God himself. Surprise, the box is empty, so Layton and Luke have to die the old-fashioned way. They walk to the castle and meet the vampire, Anton, who gives them a meal and lets them stay the night. And then the weirdest chain of events happens. The duo looks at a painting of Anton dancing with a woman who bears a striking resemblance to Katia, and when they go to bed, they're both teleported to that ball. They wake up and it's revealed Anton tied them in rope, the two escape and run into Katia, and then Anton starts sword fighting with the professor. The whiplash is insane, but this scene is easily one of the game's best moments. And then, somehow, all of the mysteries come to a close when Anton tires out. So the truth is, everyone is high on hallucinogens. The vein of gold found in the mines 50 years ago was producing a gas that caused everyone in Folsense to see things that weren't real. That's why the city aged backwards once everyone left the train station, and Anton has been living a lie. He's a weak old man, blinded by how he remembered the good times in his life. Before the curse. Before she left. The woman dancing with Anton was his fiancée, Sophia. And when she discovered she was pregnant with her child, she ran away from town. Because of the gas. The baby would become Katia's mother, a woman who died not too long after Katia was born. Anton never knew the reason he was abandoned, but he wrote a letter and put it in a box, hoping it would find Sophia. Because the box was made with Folsense gold, the inside of it would accumulate an immense collection of gases that would knock out and often kill whoever opened it, though it didn't kill Sophia when the box finally found her. In fact, she wrote a letter back to Anton, hidden in a secret chamber.
My dear Anton, are you well? I received your letter, though I'd like nothing more than to see you again. I'm afraid I no longer have the strength to do so. You don't know how many times I've thought about you over the years. I often wonder if you hate me for what I did. Do you? But there's one bright spot in this sad story, and that is our lovely granddaughter, Katya. My departure all those years ago has given you the chance to meet. And now, though my time here is drawing to a close, I like to think we'll meet again on the other side. The thought of seeing your face warms my heart. Be well and be happy. My dear Anton. Goodbye. But just for now.
I've been goofing on the story, but this ending hit me hard. You know, death is inevitable. 4 years ago, I lost my grandma, and she's the only grandparent I've ever had. And I've spent a lot of time with her, but sometimes I convince myself I didn't give her enough of it. It's one of my biggest regrets, and this ending pulled a lot of those emotions out of me. So yeah, that's the ending to Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box. It's very misguided, but it managed to tie things up nicely. And at the end of the credits, another game is teased, Professor Layton and the Unwound Future. It's far and away the most popular game in the series, and has a story that is even more emotional, so I highly recommend checking it out before I get around to reviewing it. And with that all said, let's talk about this game's puzzles. Although I was really negative about Diabolical Box's story, the puzzles more than make up for it. I love interactive puzzles where you get to slide pieces around, and Diabolical Box is full of them. You'll see one every hour, and some other puzzles you'll see lots of include these peg solitaire games, which are really fun since they take a long time to solve but lack the frustration sliding puzzles produce. There's some Tower of Hanoi and Ice Stewart puzzles which are a blast. A few ice puzzles common in Pokemon games are here. If these types of brain teasers are right down your alley, Diabolical Box is definitely worth your time. And besides those, there's a great blend of mathematics, deduction, visualizing objects in 3 dimensions, and of course, some of the trick questions that make you think outside the box. Back when I was 11, so many of these puzzles had me stumped for days, but now they're just the right challenge. I was kind of surprised I still remembered the answers to some of them. That's how much they scarred my impressionable mind. But some highlights this time around include the puzzle where Layton calls an ant a doofus. I saw this puzzle and my brain was like, why yes, I have played Splatoon, how did you know? I got mad at this one because I know about plurality votes now, yet that knowledge had nothing to do with the solution. The Boys Club puzzle is very based. Remove all women. I remember getting so mad at this stupid garlic puzzle where the answer is to stuff the corks up the guy's nose. And I can't ignore the puzzle where you open the Diabolical Box to get Sophia's letter, which requires blowing into the DS's microphone for one of its steps. Once again, there's key item puzzles like the gizmos and hotel decorating in Curious Village. One of the first things that happens on the train is that Layton and Luke spot the chef's heckin' chonker of a pet hamster. He lets us take care of it to lose weight, and like before, solving puzzles will unlock doodads to use for this mode. Diabolical Box came out right in the middle of my I want a pet hamster phase. Fun story. I got a dwarf hamster and she died after 2 months. I didn't kill it. Please trust me. I'm traumatized. But anyways, it wasn't until I saw my sister playing this mode when I asked if I could make a file. Fat fuck will walk toward anything 3 tiles away from him, and the goal is to eventually walk 30 steps in 1 round. Some items have special properties, like the apple having higher priority, and the light bulb making the hamster run forward until he slams into a wall. If you wait until the end of the game when all the items are unlocked like I did, this mode becomes very easy. A few trials, and you'll quickly have 1 shredded hamster ready to pick up bitches. Another collectible quest is the camera. Find all the missing pieces to fix it, and then you can snap photos of a few areas around Folsense to play Spot the Difference. Once you find all 3 3, a puzzle is hidden in the room. I like this inclusion. I haven't done a spot the difference in a long time, and I found these to be a good challenge. Some of the differences are very subtle, and a few of them took me more than 5 minutes to discover. Last is the tea set. Everyone in Folsense is thirsty, and it's up to us to refresh them. There's 8 ingredients that can produce 12 recipes, and by talking to the townsfolk, their taste preferences will clue us into what those recipes are. Sometimes people will flat out share what ingredients they want by saying they need something sweet or spicy, but other times you need to already have the recipe made because the description hides details about the blend that people will reference. This one got frustrating. It's just a lot of trial and error. Like, hey, Derby, I don't know what flavor makes a man go hurt. What the fuck emotion is that? What also made the tea quest annoying is that you can only brew for someone when they're sweating, which means leaving and entering the screen multiple times until the prompt appears. And conversely, during the story, I missed puzzles a few times because some characters were thirsty when I was passing by. Once again, clearing these modes will unlock some extra tougher puzzles in the bonus tab. The very last one is a sliding puzzle called the Diabolical Box. It is incredibly difficult. The fastest solution takes 78 moves, and I've never beat it without a guide. I could probably spend a whole day and only get halfway there. Weekly puzzles appear again, and this time I can actually show some off, since whoever owned the copy I bought from GameStop absolutely loved this game. Shout out to Derek. I think this guy was trying to speedrun Diabolical Box because his times are much faster than my playthrough. There's 33 in total, Derek got me 18 of them, and fortunately for me, the 2 sliding puzzles that could be downloaded are in this batch. And we can't talk about a Professor Layton game without showing off the hidden door. Typing in the code for Curious Village unlocks another sliding puzzle, and the code for Unwound Future will provide some concept art. Coming back to Diabolical Box, what stuck with me after all these years was the ending and my memory of the puzzles being very difficult. The story was never at the forefront of my enthusiasm for the games, and playing Diabolical Box again confirms that. Like I said, I don't read much, but from a guy who only plays Mario, I take writing pretty seriously. The small moments of bullshit and underutilized ideas add up, and they make the story feel very unfulfilling. I want stakes, drama, levity. I want moments that explore the human condition, and I want the story to take advantage of every idea it produces, exploring their limits, and putting them into a package that flows and feels organic. Yeah, it's a lot to ask for, but that's how this game's shortcomings make me feel. Thanks for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave a like as well to the channel grow, and subscribe to get updates on my uploads as soon as they happen. Give your grandparents a call, and I will see you all next time.